Hello everyone and welcome to Filler Content. I'm Hikiko and y'all voted for Show Me a Collection. I want a Famicom video. I want to see that dual Famicom system. Thanks for the great idea, Kirk Almighty. This is my Sharp twin Famicom system. I purchased this about 10 years ago at a local retro game store for $50, not exactly knowing what the hell it was. Upon taking this thing home, I googled it and found out that it was released in 1986 during a collaboration between Nintendo and the electronics manufacturer Sharp, combining both the Famicom and the Famicom disk system into one console. It's certainly one of the most unique items in my collection. The object feels like it shouldn't exist. It's a relic of an era where Nintendo used to collaborate with other companies for console variants. Well, the system is exactly as advertised. A console that plays both cartridges and floppy disks. It has both a reset and power button. Off to the left is the Famicom disk system. Up top is a toggle switch between cartridge and Famicom disks. It only allows you to choose between cartridge or disc. You cannot have both in at the same time. On the back of the system are two wired-in controllers, much like the original Famicom. I was never a fan of this design choice. For one, the cable sticks out to the left or right, and the controller just doesn't fit comfortably in my hands. Two, the controller cords are very short, and it feels like you're gonna yank the system down at any time during play. The Player 2 controller has a built-in microphone for games like Legend of Zelda, where it requires you to scream into your controller to kill the Pulse voice, or for the sadomasochistic games like Takeshi's Challenge, where it requires you to sing a whole song in order to complete a stage. This thing here plays Famicom cartridges, and I'm holding Parodius. I just love the distinct look and identity of each of the Famicom cartridges. There were many more color variants in the Famicom library compared to the NES's standard gray look. The top loader design also pays into the visibility of the Famicom cartridges, unlike the NES, where you would hide the cartridge in the core of the system. On the back of the system, you have an RF output and a standard composite out with your video line and mono sound out. There's also a 7.6 volt AC adapter that you need. I don't have the original, so I just have this generic Radio Shack AC adapter. Seems to work just fine. I play most of my retro consoles on my Commodore 1084 video monitor, which I picked up for $5 at a yard sale that my college was hosting when they were clearing out their tech department's attic, and it just makes all my retro systems look incredibly colorful. It enhances the look and feel of the horizontal scrolling of these two-dimensional 8-bit classics. There's just nothing quite like the glow of a CRT monitor in a dark room and the mono sound chip tunes reverberating off an empty wall to put your mind at ease. Let's talk about the games I own. Here I have Mad City, also known as The Adventures of Bayou Billy in North America. They clearly changed up the cover art between the Famicom and North American version because the Famicom version looks exactly like Paul Hogan's Crocodile Dundee. There's also a menacing gangster with a knife to a woman's head. That might have had something to do with it. As far as I can tell, they're basically the same game. It's a side-scrolling beat-em-up in a bayou setting. Despite the price tag, I paid about $2 for this. A lot of my games were imported by this place called the Awesome Video Game Store, and then somehow made it to my retro video game shop. If anyone knows what the Awesome Video Game Store is, or if it's still around, please drop me a link. I'd like to know more about where my games came from. Here's Parodius, a Famicom exclusive. As the title implies, it's a parody version of the side-scrolling shooter Gradius, and I prefer it to Gradius. You have ridiculous ships to pick from, like this penguin or an octopus, and you fly through space and other colorful landscapes, shooting down other cute creatures for no particular reason. It's easy to pick up and play, and there's a lot of variety in the power-ups. If you're a fan of the shoot-'em-up genre, check it out. This is Quinty, which is a tile flipping game. It's also known as Mendel Palace in North America, and my copy's extremely messed up. The cool thing is, it comes in this hard clamshell. A lot of Namco games, or shall I say Namcot games, back in the day came in these clamshells, which I do appreciate because they hold up over time. But another cool thing is, inside the clamshell, they had a neat little band that would hold all of your instructions, and a lot of these Namco games came with neat stickers that you could just put on your stuff. This is SD Battle Gundam Ozumo Sumo by Banpresto. SD standing for Super Deformed. This might be one of the weirdest games I own. Essentially, you take Gundams, you take Kamen Rider and Ultraman, and then you put them in the salt ring and have them fight each other as cute little sumo wrestlers. Seizure warning in San ni Ichi. This is Ninja Ryokinden 2 Ankoko no Yashinken, aka Ninja Gaiden 2, my personal favorite in the Ninja Gaiden trilogy. Unique to the Famicom version are a couple of more sound channels absent on the NES part, so the basses hit a little bit harder, but the enemies here do not. The difficulty in this version of Ninja Gaiden is far less brutal than the North American counterpart. Enemies only hit for 1 damage instead of the 3 to 4 found in the North American version, which means for most players, you can beat this one. Here's a game that needs no introduction, Super Mario Bros. 3. Strangely enough, this was my most expensive Famicom game. It cost me about 20 bucks, but after seeing the bright yellow cartridge and the cool looking box art, I had to pick it up. Not much to say about this one, other than I still like Mario Bros. 3. And my final game that I have is Cosmic Epsilon. This game never made it out to the West. It's essentially a poor man's Space Harrier. It's okay. Not the best, not the worst, just a game that exists. I eventually want to get more games from my twin Famicom. It's a library that just dwarfs the original NES in terms of exclusives and weird peripherals. I'm hoping to get games like Splatterhouse Wanpaku Graffiti or some actual Famicom discs to test out my drive. One day I might. Before I close things out, I do want to mention if you're just interested in playing Famicom games but don't want to buy a separate system, there is a converter by Hudson called the Honeybee, which allows you to plug in your Famicom games and play them on North American systems. That's all I got for you in this episode of filler content. If you enjoyed it, please make sure to thumbs up, subscribe, leave me a comment. Whatever you can do to manipulate the algorithms would be nice. I'll see you all next time.